Good morning, Dimples. How are you? Can't hear you. Now I can.
Yeah. How have you been? How is all the other issues that you were dealing with? Are they all okay?
No, we lost her.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So yes, that was last Thursday. Yeah. That's how life goes on.
No, there's a lot of mental health issues happening all over,
Yeah.
I was aware of that. I listen to this one man occasionally. Of course, he raves and rants. What's his name? David Politis. And he basically talks, he used to be a police detective, but he talks about all these strange disappearances that have been happening all over in the national parks, mainly in the US. And he starts off his podcast with a lot of, current events that are happening and things more pertaining to America. And he's been talking about this for a long time, saying that the media or the government is just brushing this issue under the carpet about how much. And the problem is the health issues, mental health issues are in young people, young high school kids and things like that. There've been a lot of suicides and things, and it's going to blow up at some point, I feel, Very unfortunate what's happening to the world.
Yeah, true. So last time we done Shrishti, right?
Yes. You see, I'm so confused. I do different classes.
Yeah.
Let me read my book.
Just check once.
Yeah. We did that Hiranyagarbha. No, I think we are into Jnanam Phalam, the last bit, no? Aren't we? Or did we stop at a certain point? Didn't we do Jva, Ishvara, aikyam? Okay, then we have to do that.
No, we didn't do this.
Okay, then we'll do this aikyam, what they call. Aikyam is the essential oneness of the Jīva and Ishvara. See, there's something called an Upadhi, okay? Now, if you look in the Western, like if you try and look for a meaning of Upadhi into English, they've used the term limiting adjunct, which doesn't explain anything really, Earlier, I think it was body was an Upadhi, but apparently Upadhi is a term that is used for anything that because of its closeness distorts your vision of what the actual reality is. So in this, we did in Drigdrishya Viveka that this body, mind, sense complex is an Upadhi.
Right.
For us. Okay. So there is an Īśvara's Upadhi is different. The six these things, qualities of Īśvara, what they talk about, all knowledge, all Aishwaryam, all Viryam, all that, all free, all, the one, what they say. So obviously that Upadhi is different. Our Upadhi is different. So there is no oneness or no equation at the Upadhi level.
Right.
The equation is at intrinsic nature level, which is consciousness. So people get mistaken stupid idea sometimes that, if I become a jnani, that means I'll have all knowledge of past, present, and future. No. Your Upadhi is limited to what it is, which is this body and mind has a limited ability to grasp knowledge. You cannot know everything. So do not do the comparison at Upadhi level. The comparison, which is why they want you to understand what your true nature is, which is consciousness.
Right.
At that level, that and the all-pervading consciousness, what you call Paramatma, it is the same consciousness. So that's what this Jva, Ishvara, aikyam will be about.
Beautiful. Looking forward.
And there are these, what they call Mahavakya. A Mahavakya is basically any statement, and there's a lot, even in the Gita, there are a few Mahavakyas. Anything that equates the Jva and Ishvara is called a Mahavakya.
Wow.
And there are hundreds of them in the Upanishads, but they generally take 4 or 5 of them to study or to elaborate on, and the Prakarana Granthas are written on them, like Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. So from each Veda, they've taken one as a
example.
Yeah. So that's what it is. We can start.
All right. So chapter 13, Introduction to Vedanta. We are in Jva, Ishvara, Aikyam. Vedanta then moves on to the next important topic, which is the essential oneness of Jva and Ishvara, called Jva, Ishvara, Aikyam. Scriptures say that Jva, the consciousness in the microcosm, and Ishvara, the consciousness in the macrocosm, are one and the same. The difference we perceive belongs to the reflecting medium. There is no difference in the essential consciousness at all. In the scriptures, there are many statements which reveal this oneness, and these statements are called Mahavakyas. Mahavakya, or the analysis. Mahavakya is a Vedic statement which reveals essential oneness of Jva and Ishvara. This theme is the primary theme of Vedanta. All other topics are secondary. To discover the oneness of Jva and Ishvara, I have to analyze the Mahavakya. This is called Mahavakya Vichara. How are we going to discover the essential oneness of Jva and Ishvara? We are going to see that Jva is also an expression of the consciousness obtaining in the individual Shariratrayam, and Ishvara is also another expression of the consciousness obtaining in the Prapanchatrayam.
Okay, I just want to jump in here briefly because I've always discussed this with my teacher in this entire parampara. And starting with Puja Swamiji, Swami Dayananda, they always use the term obtaining, okay? And I used to say, what on earth does that mean? Basically, what it means is existing. But for some reason, this parampara likes to use this word obtaining. So please understand, whenever you read obtaining, basically it is saying what is existent in something. You understand what I'm saying? Consciousness existing in the individual Sharira or consciousness obtaining in the individual Sharira is the same thing.
I get you. No, thank you.
I very, I said, why do we use that word? But they do, so I just accept it.
Yeah. No, very important. Thank you. So let's read this again. We are going to see that Jiva is also an expression of the consciousness existing in the individual Shariratrayam, and Ishvara is also another expression of the consciousness obtained existing in the Prapanchatrayam. Makes sense. Therefore, both of them are expressions of one consciousness. In other words, we are going to see that consciousness is the essential nature of Jiva and Ishvara. That is, the essential nature of both Jiva and Ishvara are one and the same. Let us now see an example to understand this concept. Imagine a dark room without light, when all the doors and windows are also closed. I want to illumine this dark room and I don't have any torchlight, nor even a matchstick, but I have a mirror in my hand. Now, the mirror does not have any illumining capacity, nor is it a source of light. It is not a luminous entity. I now make use of my intelligence and go out. I open one window or door to my room, of my room. I keep the mirror in a particular angle so that the original sun, which is up above, is reflected in the mirror. A reflected sun is formed on the mirror. Once a mirror gets the reflection of the sun, it is illumined by the sun. Simultaneously, it becomes a bright source of light also. The non-luminous mirror becomes a luminous mirror. However, what is the difference between the sun's brightness and mirror's brightness? The sun's brightness is a natural one, whereas the mirror has only borrowed brightness caused by the reflected sun. This reflected sunlight may be called Pratibimba Surya, and the original sunlight is called Bimba Surya. The mirror and its borrowed brightness now get a new status. It becomes illuminator of the dark room. This reflected sunlight can be thrown in any angle by keeping the mirror reflected in a particular angle. It is with this Pratibimba Surya that the moon appears bright on a full moon day. Thus, we have to take note of three things: the original sun, the reflecting medium, and the reflected sun, henceforth known as OS, RM, and RS. We should now understand that there would be as many reflected suns as there are reflecting mediums, but the original sun is always one. The next question is this. If there are many reflected suns, will there be any difference in the quality of reflection? The answer is, there will be differences depending upon the quality of the medium. A small medium will produce a small reflection, a big medium, a big one, a dull medium, a dull one, and so on. Thus, all the reflections and the capacities are different. With a small mirror, you can illumine only a small area, whereas with a big one, we can illumine a big area. Though these reflections are superficially different, they're essentially an expression of the original sun, which
this is basically to explain the difference in people. The difference is in the Upadhi, not in the consciousness.
Yeah.
Somebody's mind is brighter, somebody's mind is duller. That depends on your vasanas, your previous lives, whatever is there in your samskaras. Some people are naturally very, very, let's say, talented in different fields. So it has nothing to do with the consciousness. The consciousness is only bringing what is there to light. It is the same for everybody. But people are different depending on their Upadhi, individual Upadhi. So that's why this is being explained so much. Otherwise, people, it's the same consciousness. Aren't we all as bright or as smart as everybody else?
No, but I'm a little confused about this.
Yeah.
So say we have a teacher, we equate him or her to a sun. All of us who are learning are pratibimba, is it?
No. You can't. See, you need to understand one thing. As we've learned earlier, there are few things, steps. One is that there are the three bodies, right?
Right.
So it's the subtle body, which has the mind, not the brain, which is in the physical body. That subtle body, the mind, and therefore the subtle body, because the mind is in the subtle body, is what is called the reflecting medium. All it does is the original consciousness is manifest in that reflecting medium, which is the subtle body, and that enlivens the whole body. It even enlivens the mind. But the mind already has vasanas and samskaras from previous lives. It just brings it to light, gives it existence. But your nature and behavior will depend upon what is already stored data in your chittam. Remember, we did the 4 functional divisions of the mind, chittam being one of them, the memories, which includes past life memories.
Right.
So that's what they are trying to explain. All consciousness does is, see, how do you describe something so abstract? All it is the consciousness or the sentiency by which I'm aware of anything. And that is what it does, is it comes in and gives existence. Consciousness existence, Satchit.
Right.
Everything else depends on the way your mind functions after that,
Right. All right.
Did I answer your question? I'm not sure.
Absolutely. When somebody comes and tells that the moonlight is nothing but the sunlight, it might look contradictory, because the moonlight is the light of the moon. But when I start analyzing, I'm boldly able to say that the moonlight is nothing but the sunlight. This is called inquiry. When the relative sends a money order to me, how do I receive the money? I receive it from the postman. Do I conclude that the postman has given me the money? I know it's from a relative who has given me the money through the postman. Similarly, the moon acts as a postman. It is a sunlight which is truly illumining the earth through the moon. In other words, the essential nature of the moonlight is the sunlight. Thus, all the reflected sunlights are essentially the same, though they are superficially different because of the reflecting medium. Let us use this example for understanding Jva, Ishvara, aikyam. The original sun is to be seen as the all-pervading consciousness. We have 2 types of reflecting media. One is Shariratrayam. That is the 3 bodies that reflect consciousness. This can be compared to the small mirror. The second reflecting medium is the Prapanchatrayam, which can be compared to a big mirror. The reflected consciousness which enlivens and unifies the Shariratrayam is Jīva. The reflected consciousness that enlivens and unifies the Prapanchatrayam is Īśvara. Let's look at this map. Brahman is the original consciousness. Then on the left, we have causal body, reflected consciousness, which is prana.
Causal body is RM1, which is reflecting medium 1.
Yes.
The subtle body is reflecting medium 2, and the gross body is, I mean, this is just to understand. It doesn't mean that, it's basically the same entity. And then the body is reflecting medium 3. The reason they are showing it as the reflected consciousness in the causal body is called RC1, in the subtle body is called RC2, and in the gross body is called RC3. The only reason this is being done, because they want you to be familiar with these 3 other terms that I use for the Jīva. At the gross body level called Vishwa, at the subtle body level called Tejasa, and at the causal body level it's called Prajna. And the same thing is for the causal world, the Prapancha. So it is at the gross level, it is called Hiranyagarbha at the subtle level, and Antaryami at the causal level, and altogether that is Īśvara. It's just a chart to understand. You don't have to worry about it beyond a point.
Right.
It's later that when you read, you'll understand why is reflected consciousness at the gross world level called Virat, because the universe is enormous. So it's called Virat. And right. I've forgotten what the reason for the Vishwa is, but I know that for the Jīva, Tejasa, Tejas is light.
Right.
So basically, it's a subtle body that enlivens the gross body, because that is where the mind functions and it is able to understand and perceive things. That is why the term Tejasa is used for the subtle body, Jīva in the subtle body. And the subtle world is called Hiranyagarbha, which to my understanding is the sum total of all, they say devatas, but what they basically mean is all the orders that cause the entire creation to function. Orders in nature, orders in the body, orders of seasons, orders of planets, everything. And Antaryami is, I think, the indweller, and that is what they use at the causal level, because it's not manifest at that time. And Prajna for this is just to understand briefly, right. Not to get confused about.
Superficially, there seems to be a difference between the Jīva and the Īśvara, because the reflecting medium are different and the reflections are also different. As the Jīva functions behind the individual Shariratrayam, his powers appear limited. He has limited knowledge, limited power, and occupies limited space. On the other hand, Īśvara functions behind total Prapanchatrayam. He's
Sarvagna,
omniscient, Sarva Shaktiman, omnipotent, Sarvayapi, omnipresent. All the natural forces are his. Superficially, Jīva and Īśvara appear not only different, but diagonally opposite. One calls the Jīva a servant, Dasa, and Īśvara a master, Swami. The Jīva is a creature and the Īśvara the creator. Jīva and Īśvara seem to be diagonally opposite to each other. The Veda Purva Bhaga, the first portion of the Vedas, deal with the superficial difference alone. All the pujas, yagnas, prashyits, karmas, and prayers are based on the superficial differences between the Jīva and the Īśvara. Whereas the final portion of the Vedas, the Vedanta points out that the consciousness in Jīva and the consciousness in Īśvara are none other than the original consciousness. The limitations belong not only to the original consciousness, but to the reflecting medium. Thus, Jīva and Īśvara are essentially the same consciousness. Jīva and Īśvara are one and the same. This recognition is called Jīva, Īśvara, Aikya, Jnanam. This is the topic of all the scriptures. Any statement which reveals this essential oneness is called Mahavakya. There are many Mahavakyas occurring in the Vedas, but generally one Mahavakya is chosen from each Veda as a sample. The sample Vakyas are, so we are going to be reading the Veda name, the Upanishad, and the Mahavakya.
You want me to do that? The Rig Veda has the Aitreya Upanishad, and there the Mahavakya is Prajnanam Brahma. The Yajurveda has the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and that's where the Mahavakya is Aham Brahmasmi. Samaveda, the Upanishad there, that each Veda has different Upanishads, right? So this is Chandogya Upanishad, and that's where you get the Mahavakya Tattvamasi. And the Atharvana Veda, there is a Mandukya Upanishad, and that Mahavakya that is taken as a sample from there is I am Atma Brahma.
So tell me, what does Prajnam Brahma mean?
All mean the same thing.
Brahmasmi means I'm the universe.
Yeah, Tattvamasi, you are that.
Yeah, you are that. That's
and that
Tattvamasi can also mean I am that.
Huh?
You are that, or I am that.
You are that. Tattvamasi.
Tvam is you, yeah. You are.
And
that.
this Prajnam, you remember we did Prajna for reflected consciousness and causal. So Prajnam Brahma means that you are that Brahman.
Right.
And I am Atma Brahma, all mean the same thing basically. But they are done by different sages and they have different ways of approaching. When you do any of these Upanishads, then you will find that all say ultimately the same thing, but they approach it in a dialogue form slightly differently. That's what it is.
Right. Thus, all the Mahavakyas reveal the Jva, Īśvara, aikyam, which is the most important and the central theme of Vedanta. This Jnanam, which alone liberates a person from samsara, is called Advaita Jnanam. This Jnanam reveals that Jīva and Ishvara are not two, but one and the same essentially. As long as there is Dvaita Jnanam, there will be samsara. Very beautiful. Only by Advaita Jnanam will there be freedom from samsara.
You know what?
When there is oneness, when there is one, sorry.
We were doing chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita. This is a Vishvarupa.
Yeah.
Where Arjuna asked Lord Krishna to show me he says, show me your actual form. So that is where that Vishvarupa chapter is. So in creation, they're all opposites. Just because there is good, there will be bad. Where there is light, there will be darkness. So when Lord Krishna shows him his actual form, Arjuna gets very scared and says, please come back to your original form. I can't take this, because he sees, like people in the jaws of death and what have you. So we were reading this and the teacher was explaining, says, why does Arjuna get so scared? Because he is totally in duality, in Dvaita. When you get past that and come into Advaita, the fear goes. So it was beautifully explained in that chapter, in our big book that we are studying, that duality is what gives fear. When you feel you are separate, when you feel a sense, even with people, what you don't know, you are a bit nervous about. When you get to know them and you say, that fear goes away. So that is what they are talking about, I think,
Yeah. So Dvaita is duality and Advaita is oneness. So if there's oneness, you're free from all samsara and all fears and everything.
Like take an example of you and I. We didn't know each other. We were unknown entities. But now that we do know each other, there is no, no hesitation, or there is no intimidation of one to the other or vice versa. You know what I mean? So that is what, if you look at it at a simple level, it's like that. When you look at it at the level of Vedanta, the more you start understanding that, the more you just leave it to Īśvara and say, fine, whatever it is, karma is there, I accept, but you're with me. So that takes a lot of fear away from your life.
So all other sadhanas, including prayer, pujas, and the like, may give temporary freedom from the sorrows of life. When you have a huge burden to carry on your shoulder, you shift from one shoulder to the other. This gives a temporary relief. All other sadhanas other than Advaita Jnanam give such a relief only. The permanent solution is given by Advaita Jnanam alone. Vedanta gives Advaita Jnanam. Very nice.
I'll give you a small example personally. There was a certain situation that had to be dealt with, which has been going on for 3-4 years. And I finally decided the solution to that problem was to say, let's get rid of a particular property. Let's put it like that. And I also happen to know, this we'll do next to when we do karma, you'll understand. I know what my horoscope is. I knew what the difficult time was. So I felt that, okay, this is what's unfolding. I will just accept it. When the time is right, Īśvara will make things right for me. And I knew that was a 2.5 year period. And I know there were certain friends of mine, and it's the husbands basically who were getting more upset. They would tell their wives, what's wrong with Dimples? Why isn't she getting more proactive? Why isn't she doing this? Why isn't she doing that? And I was telling my friends, I said, look, tell them I'm doing what I can. After that, it is in Īśvara's hand.
Right.
Who am I? When the time is right, the thing will happen. And you won't believe it. Even before that period ended, everything got sorted out so satisfactorily. It was amazing. So they thought I was just scared or I was brushing things under a carpet. No, I had just left it to Īśvara. I said, look, when I know I can't decide my timeline for what has to be done, it is in your hands. Yeah. That is the attitude which I think Vedanta has given me. It's that Sharanagati, what they call,
Yeah.
So whatever happens in life, accept it. That is Karma Yoga. That it's happening and you're not in control. You can just make the effort. After that, I mean, I couldn't go jumping up and down, saying this has to be done, that has to be done. It had to happen when it had to happen. Do what you have to do, but stop. Then after that, don't fret about it. And I've seen this actually happen in my life in the last 2.5 years.
Wow. Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing your 2 bits every Thursday. It's beautiful to tune
But
in.
what's going to be very interesting is to understand karma in our next class, I guess that will be.
Yeah.
Oh, there are 3 types of karma. Now we'll go into that in detail. It's very interesting.
And by the way, I didn't find the book that you were telling me that we can read after this. So maybe you'll have to courier me and then I have to scan it because there's no PDF available.
Okay, I will. Okay.
Maybe you can just speed post it to me because then I can scan it again like this.
Yeah, I'll get the building manager to do it today because we're going into very heavy things. So hopefully you'll get it. I've got a spare copy. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, because then we can just try together after this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Lots of love and light.
Same to you.